Today's episode is all about energy.
Energy and power.
Energy and power, but not what you're thinking of right now. I know there's a lot going on in the world, but it's definitely not about that. We are talking specifically about renewable energy and alternative power sources. But at Grizzly Habits, we like to promote, of course, people, influencers who are doing the right thing for the community, who are setting examples. But we also like to take the time to review different products, different organizations that might be doing something similar. So for today's episode, we actually ran across a product that we really like, and it is on our table. It is the Goal Zero power supply. And of course, we bought this product without the intent of doing a product review, but as we got to understand the company as we placed the order, we really realized that, man, they deserve a highlight.
Well, it was everything from placing the order to picking up the order, because we're a block away from Goal Zero, to actually using the product. It was from start to finish of that purchase to actually using it that made a big difference for us, I think.
Yeah. And as I started digging in a little bit more about Goal Zero, they have an impact report from 2020. They made some shifts because of COVID that we can talk about. But before we get started, I want to make some tea, and then maybe we'll chat about why we would need portable power in our lives. So I bought the Goal Zero to charge all the camera gear, which in fact, everything today, the podcast, the lighting, and the tea kettle is all being powered by the Goal Zero. So we can see on the screen actually how much power is being consumed with the product. We're not going to go into the details about all the technical specs. We just want to give you real world examples of the Goal Zero, what we put it to test, and how it worked for us. But I like to have it on the shoot or on the set where we can charge lights, we can charge batteries for the camera. When you're filming in 4K, you go through a ton of juice, ton of energy, and you go through batteries like crazy. So if you're out camping in the wilderness and you don't have access to power, you either have to hook up like a gas generator that you carry around with you, and who wants to hear a gas generator running?
Well, they're loud, they're heavy, and not only are you carrying around a gas generator, but you're carrying around a can of gas.
Yeah, you're carrying around a can of gas. And for us, where we actually stayed inside the trailer because it was a really cold weekend. Normally we would have set up a tent, but we just stayed inside the enclosed.
Right.
Had we had a bunch of gas, it could have spilled. There could be fumes. So you definitely don't want that carrying around with you, which is why we actually got the Goal Zero for this trip. So all that being said, I like it for camera gear. Now, Stephanie, you have a construction business, and like you said, you're carrying around gas generators, and you actually took the Goal Zero and used it. But what are some applications for contractors, builders, or anyone that would be requiring power?
Yeah, so sorry, you're going to hear a little bit of noise. That's the tea kettle that's heating up, and you'll probably see on the screen how much energy that tea kettle uses. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, on a job site, a lot of times we don't have power. So at the beginning of a build, we set up what's called temporary power. There are times when we just cannot get temporary power set up. So in those cases, we're hauling around big generators, cans of gas, the whole thing. We had a quick little thing we had to do on the site the other day. We had to put in some foundation piers and use the Goal Zero. So it was really nice to hook up what I thought would have drained this pretty quickly, a pretty large drill, hooked to a 50-foot extension cord, which also concerned me a little bit about drawing power. It got the job done, and we started with 100% battery, and when we were completed, it was at 88%, I think.
And what's really cool that Goal Zero recommends is you can actually leave the product just plugged in at home for emergency, so it's topped off when you need to use it. Some of the larger power supplies you can actually plug into your power panel. What do we call those?
Yeah, like a power bank on your house. So Goal Zero, as I started doing more research on it, Goal Zero actually makes power banks so that you could plug their larger Goal Zero kits. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but you plug their larger ones into your house to run your home or specific rooms in your home during emergency situations.
Yeah. And for those that are following along on a podcast, we do have a YouTube right now that's demonstrating what's happening. So the noise in the background, we're actually using a electric tea kettle to boil water up to 212 degrees. And heat plates take a lot of energy.
They do. They draw a lot more power than I thought they would. So
they draw a lot. And any kind of heat source, whether it's like a radiant heater or whether it is even like a warming plate, they take a lot of energy. They consume a lot of energy. So the way that they describe it, and the first experience I had was with Goal Zero and their customer service, and I just wanted to know, hey, can I use this for all of my camera gear? But let's say I want to take a Keurig camping because I'm lazy and I don't want to percolate coffee. I just want to throw a K-cup in and be done with it. Would it power a Keurig? And what they do is they actually give you a chart. So at your own leisure, you can kind of determine what you either want to recharge. Maybe you're just going to be recharging some of your personal items, or you're going to be running different types of electronic devices. So what they have here is they have recharges with this Yeti 1000X. That's the product that we used. It can recharge a smartphone about 82 times, tablet 33 times, a laptop 20 times, GoPro or a point of view camera about 197 charges on one of those.
And that's from dead to charged.
That's from dead to charged.
I mean, if we think about it, like, it's not often that we're draining our cell phones or our laptops completely before we're charging them up. So this is actually a lot of energy and a lot of things that's charging. Yeah,
and it's all based off of watt hour usage. So I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not going to pretend like I know, but it's easy to calculate. If you have a microwave, here's an example. If you power a microwave at 1,000 watts, this Yeti 1000X will power it for 1 hour, right? So I view that as like a 1-to-1 ratio at 1,000.
Right.
So
here we are.
Here's our water. It's boiling. So we are going to have some nice tea popping out. It's actually boiling out of the top. We put too much water in. So just compare the devices. So I believe this tea kettle consumes about 1,100 watts. So had we left that plugged in for an entire hour, it likely would have drained the Yeti 1000X. But since we only use it for a couple minutes, you'll notice on the screen the battery level jumps back up. But just some examples here of hours of runtime. So the Yeti 1000X will power a light of life, which is their light that they make, for 219 hours. A regular 11-watt light bulb for 90 hours. A CPAP machine. So for those of you that you might have sleep apnea and you use a CPAP device to sleep, this will actually power a sleep apnea or CPAP device for 15 hours. So roughly 2 nights. That's enough to go out in the sticks and go camping and have a good weekend and still use your CPAP machine. 42-inch TV for about 10 hours. Pellet grill, like a Traeger. We're actually going to use it for that, definitely. It'll power a Traeger for about 17 hours. So you can get a couple of really good smokes out of one of these. So the list goes on, and they give this to you. In fact, when I reached out on chat, they gave me this exact chart so you can kind of, at your own discretion, make the decision as to what size you want. So we chose the 1000X, and as you can see, it's working for everything that we need. I have my podcast set up, plug into it. So I have my Rodecaster Pro. We have 2 really bright video lights. As you can see, we like the room lit dark, and this is all being powered by 2 lights that consume about 50 watt hours. Then we have the GoPro batteries being charged, and then we just did the tea kettle. So I'm confident that it's going to work for what I need it to work. Now, that being said, we both took this to the test, the real world test, and we went down camping in southern Utah, and we chose the worst weekend to be down there. It dropped into the teen temperatures. It was extremely cold, and unfortunately, the Yeti didn't work.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that, but on the drive down, because we actually picked it up from Goal Zero on our way out of town. So we didn't get a chance to unbox it. We didn't get a chance to read through the booklet, really anything, until we were on the road. So halfway down, I pull out the booklet, pull it out of the box, and just make sure it's fully charged so that we can actually use it for the weekend and start reading through it. It does not work in freezing temperatures. I guess it makes sense because it is a lithium battery, and they don't they don't perform well in cold temperatures. Also, they don't perform well, I've noticed, in extreme heat temperatures either. So those are two things that are kind of a downfall in Utah, right? If you're going to use it, I guess, outdoors where we were using it camping, or where I would love to use it more frequently would be on the job site. We both are in those extreme heat or extreme cold temperatures.
Yeah, and at the defense of Goal Zero, none of our devices worked.
No.
So, I mean, we woke up at 3, 4 in the morning and it was freezing cold. We had a 0-degree sleeping bag, so we were okay. But the iPads, the cell phones, the cameras, nothing would turn on. So it's nothing to do with Goal Zero on the product. I don't think there's any way around it. Maybe Goal Zero, I haven't looked, but if there's an accessory of like a heat wrap, a lot like the car batteries, that you can plug those in and keep them warm. Maybe there's something to keep the Goal Zero without plugging it in warm. But nonetheless, you can plan accordingly. You can make sure you understand that, hey, it's going to drop pretty dang cold in the night and I'm not going to be able to use this. Now, if you're going to take a Goal Zero to Antarctica and strap to your back and power your cell phone, you might want to think of something else from our perspectives. So we like the product. The product works. There's a lot of products on the Goal Zero website. You can see the accessories they've made. They have all different sizes of batteries, whether you want one of the small power packs that you take on the airplane, or you can actually get the really big ones that you plug into your home as like a backup power. But aside from the product, why don't we just brainstorm some ideas as you'd want backup power comparable to like a backup generator? And of course, like a power outage. On this device, it says it can power a mini refrigerator for 28 hours. So let's say you have a really bad power outage. You could actually hook this device to a bedroom to power the lights, and then maybe an outlet with a fridge. And you can take those perishable items, you can put them in a mini fridge. If you don't have cooler, you don't have ice, and you're going to get through it. So that's something that's really cool to have as backup. Aside from that, camping, there's a lot of opportunities to use power, especially if you're a tent camper and you don't have access to an RV and you want to go out in the beautiful, great state of Utah and explore the wilderness. It's definitely something you could use there. But Steph, on your job site, I know we talked earlier about not having power, having temp power hooked up to a site. What are some things that you would need power for before you'd have temp power? Yeah,
so most of it is going to be, in today's day and age, it's tools that are battery operated, right? So whether that's, the 4 guys on site each have their drills and they all have 3 extra batteries that are charging. In a typical scenario, when I do have temp power, we are talking about a temporary pedestal that is out in the front of the lot in snow or whatever it may be, that has 2 extension cords plugged into it. This is part of my reasoning for wanting to jump more into this Goal Zero on the job site, but it's more of a safety thing. Two extension cords plugged in outside in the snow or rain, whatever it may be, ran 100 feet or so into the house, then hooked up to power strips, which are hooked up to multiple battery chargers. It's just a bit of a safety hazard. So there's a lot of things, but that's kind of number one would be the batteries for the tools. Like I was saying, I used it for a drill to put those tilt-up braces on. And the guys had a pretty powerful drill that was not battery operated. So we had it hooked to an extension cord, hooked to the Goal Zero, and we do have some footage of that. But again, I was a little blown away that it actually worked really well. But those are the kinds of things early on that we would be seeing a need for power. So,
and that drill that you were using, we did the math, and it was consuming about 900 watts. So it's close to that microwave. And if we remember, the microwave was 1 hour of use at 1,000 watts.
Yep.
How long were you using the drill? Granted, it's not running for an hour straight. You're going to put it in a hole, take it out, move to the next. But how long would you say you had that running? And then what did the battery come back at when you were done?
Yeah. So when we started, we were probably on the job site for a total of 2.5 hours. Now that's drilling the holes, putting the screws in, actually hooking up the tilt-up braces. But I would guess the guys were maybe drilling for 10 minutes, and that's generous. That was probably a high guess, but we started at 100% battery. It came back at 88% battery. And you could kind of see, even when we were running the kettle here a few minutes ago, right now the Goal Zero says it's got 7 hours left with everything that we are running currently. When the kettle's on, it drops to 0.7 or so. Same thing was happening with the drill. When it's got something plugged into it that's drawing a lot of power, it's accurate. Its number of, hours till empty decreases drastically. But as soon as you've got that shut off, it goes back up. So, maybe 10 minutes total from start to finish. And that, again, is probably a little generous. But the biggest thing for me would be the ability to charge a lot of batteries on site. So we're constantly switching out batteries and not feel like it's a huge safety hazard, where especially if you're one of 4 trades on the job site. So at this stage, say on site, we usually have a plumber, an electrician, an HVAC contractor, the carpenters, and the carpenters are usually doing like pickup framing and things like that. So there's a lot of people with a lot of batteries all trying to charge on the job site. And at this stage, there's no power. So they're all plugged in with multiple power strips. It's just, it's a mess. It's a safety hazard. And honestly, the Goal Zero we got, I think, is one of the smaller Goal Zeros. They do have, and I've noticed on their social media, they do have bigger Goal Zeros that are kind of like on wheels that they, I guess, are marketing on social media for construction sites. So would be interesting to know like the difference between what that powers versus what we have. Obviously, that's not the reason you and I purchased this one, but I mean, the price difference you can see right there. This unit that we purchased, the 1000X, I believe retails about $1,400, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 14 or 1,500.
Yeah, and it looks like the one you're looking at now, which is the 6000X, which is kind of the one that they promote on social media for construction and that kind of a thing. What was that hefty price tag?
This one's about, let's see here, the price is $5,400.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple. You just multiply the usage times 6. So we mentioned the microwave at 1,000 watts was about an hour. It's 6 hours with the 6000X. Or the CPAP we said is about, 14 to 15 hours. It's 93 hours.
Yeah,
right? So you can get a lot more use out of it. But in essence, it's just a bigger battery.
Exactly. And I think Goal Zero offers a huge array of products, like you said, from a simple battery charger to take on the airplane to one of these heftier battery packs that is literally at your home, ready to serve as a backup generator, shall we call it, right? A backup source of power. And if I'm looking at it from the contractor's side of things, because we do a lot of homes with solar, I would say over 95% or more of the homes that we install solar on don't have power banks. So what that means, I guess, is your monthly power bill is nothing or very, very low, if anything. But you're not storing that energy if you don't have a power bank to store it in, right? So when you start to purchase those Tesla power banks, and there's a million companies now that I saw at the Builder Show that are making power banks, but the most popular one we know of is the Tesla, right? The Powerwall thing. Those, I'm sure, are significantly more expensive than the Goal Zero, and they're doing similar things. It's overall, I guess, end game is to what level of comfort are you willing to sacrifice during an emergency situation? Because this would absolutely run what you need it to and get your family through comfortably and with food and everything else at a fairly affordable cost, right?
Yeah, and beyond that, it actually can be charged by solar itself.
Yep.
So let's say it is an emergency. Let's say it's like doomsday, right? Eventually you're going to run out of gas. If
Correct.
you have a portable generator, Gas stations will be closed down or whatever. You can plug this into its accessory solar panel, and you can stick it in the backyard and you can charge it. And the way that works as well is depending on the size of the solar panel, let's say it's 200 watts. It'll bring in 200 watts in a perfect case scenario. So
if it were
you're
following
the sun and
right.
It's exactly perfect. It's going to bring in 200 watts. So it's going to take you about 4 hours to charge the 1000X.
Right.
So if you're using 100 watt, it's going to be 8 hours. So that's in theory how it should work to charge it back up. Now, give or take, if there's anything plugged into it or whatever, it's definitely going to change that drastically. But with this, you can have it as backup power. You can have an extended solar panel just in case something does go crazy and you have to plug it in. And it's renewable energy.
It is, yeah.
Off the power of the sun.
Well, I think that was kind of for me, coming from someone who had never used something like this, and none of my employees had seen something like this, so taking it to a job site sparked up a lot of questions, which I think is great. But yeah, one of the main questions is like, can you plug the solar panel into it and let it charge while you're using it? And their website is so informative. It's almost like every question you have can be answered by they've done an excellent job on their website.
They have. Yeah, they've done a really good job. So as far as the product goes, personally, I'm going to say thumbs up.
Yeah.
I think that it's a great product. I think that it's going to do everything I need it to do. I think it's going to do everything for the most part that we both need it to do for outdoors, for camping, for videography. And we'll continue to test it, but there's a lot that it will continue to do for construction. Right. You're going to be able to plug batteries in and charge drills and just keep going without that power on site.
Well, it kind of all leads back to that clean energy thing, right? You're carrying this Goal Zero, or you're carrying a generator and gas cans. And I mean, let's look at the price of gas today. Gas went up 40 to 50 cents last night. And I know we're in a unique situation, but it just makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that this is the direction that we're all headed. We're all headed in a cleaner energy direction, whether that be Goal Zero, solar power, whatever. We're all headed towards a cleaner way of producing energy.
Yeah, and no matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you believe in global warming or you don't, the bottom of the line is it's another method.
Yep.
And it's renewable energy, where eventually we'll run out of fossil fuels. Well, I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but you would think that the buried dinosaur bones that turn into oil will eventually disappear, right? So it's another solution. Mm-hmm. And it also helps the cause. We consume a lot of fossil fuels, a lot of natural gas, where if we choose an alternative method where appropriate, you're part of the solution. You can help save some of those non-renewable sources of energy.
Right. I think that the more that things like this get out there, the more that people see, it's going to become more common. I will say when I took this, the guys also did haul the Honda generator with the can of gas because they didn't believe that it was going to do what we needed it to do, it'd perform. But we didn't even have to think twice. The second you started working with it, it did what it was supposed to do when it was supposed to do it. And that's exactly what it's there for. So,
and we said this in the intro, this is in no way a paid partnership with Goal Zero. And that's part of what Grizzly Habits does is we like to promote positivity. We'd like to find products that work, companies that do what they say they do, and they support their customers. We want to promote them, particularly and especially small businesses. We want to make sure that we can help like-minded companies out there have the tools to grow. And that's why Grizzly Habits is here. So this is in no way a paid partnership. And we are recommending the Goal Zero because we've tried it and we've been part of the customer service experience. And we know that that's a company that can support our needs, and we're going to recommend them to all of our friends.
Well, I think that's part of what we haven't talked about yet is the customer service experience. Like picking up the Goal Zero and the way the customer interaction is handled and ordering the Goal Zero. Like you're the one that actually got on and ordered it. Speak a little bit about how was your experience with that? Because I find it really rare nowadays to have a really good customer service experience with people anymore. And I don't say that as a kind of negative Nancy attitude. I say that as over the last 18 to 24 months, I feel like people have gotten more difficult. People have become, they have a shorter fuse, I guess. And the stay-at-home, shelter-in-place, COVID mindset has now killed everyone's ability to interact face-to-face with people and to treat people kindly, I guess. Like, it's just, and so when you run across an experience like we had with Goal Zero, I feel like it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of, again, what we want to do is to make sure that the positivity spreads, not the negative, negative reviews or negative responses. But we talked about this in another podcast, but it was about the power of reviews, positive, negative reviews. But Inc.com said that it takes 40 positive reviews to overturn a negative. And it makes perfect sense because when I scroll through the reviews or the 5-star rating, you usually skim past those 5 stars and you stop on the 1 because you want to know what's up. Why did this one person not like it? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's the memory that retains, or that's the comment that makes us shift and look for other products. So we want to make sure we promote the positive where we can. And you'll notice that we don't really promote or mention the negative, right? We want to do our part to make sure that we're sharing positivity. So to your point, the customer service, there's a lot of people out there right now that are extremely stressed and overwhelmed, and it's just really hard. There's a lot of things that, if you're afraid of the unknown or you don't take stress easily, then there's a lot of things throughout the last couple of years that have probably made your life pretty difficult. So, it takes a lot of energy to smile and come in and help someone else, help the neighbor. So when we ordered through Goal Zero, I went on the website just spontaneously to order actually I was going to get the smaller one. I was going to get the 500X. And just based off of chat, it was really quick in the middle of the day. I think I was snacking on lunch and I hurried and went onto the webpage and said, hey, here's some questions. Here's what I want to do. What do you recommend? And the person on customer service sent me over the specs and said, hey, based off these specs, you can make your decision, but here's what you need to know. And it was really easy to see that, the 1000X was the right one for me. So we live just down the street. It's in Bluffdale, Utah. We're just a couple minutes away from the headquarters. And normally you go on the website, you do an e-commerce order and they ship it to you. Well, I would rather just head on over and say, hey, meet the team and grab my Goal Zero and get out the door. So they were able to they sent me a link for the credit card. They placed the order and then they had it ready within a couple of days, where we just swung by and we picked it up. Mm-hmm. When you pick it up, because of COVID, you don't go into the facility, you call ahead of time and they bring your order out to your car. And the young lady that helped us out just had a fantastic attitude. We were both laughing as she was coming to the car because it seemed like she was having a good day, but she had a smile on her face. She was treating us well. And we got the product and we were on with our day. But aside from customer service, if you look at the overall organization, and I'm just going to pull it up here so I don't mislead anyone, but they have a 2020 impact report. And the impact report is all around what they've done to empower human potential and give back to the community. They have some numbers here where they have 81,818 people who were impacted. They have 14 community partners. They donated 2,066 products. They focus on education. And they also stepped up during our nation's time of need or the world's time of need during COVID. And they shifted and they built face shields for medical providers. We know at the very beginning of COVID, there was a shortage of N95 masks, face shields, and just about anything else where they shifted. And I want to be cautious here because I've heard people say that, when companies jumped in to make face masks or face shields, it was selfish, right? They were just jumping on the next quick win, where really these organizations, they shifted so they could keep their employees employed. Right. They made a decision so they didn't have to do layoffs. And they were also doing their part to give back to the community. So, and the reason I mentioned that is there was a company that made suits, and it was about a $200,000 a year company. And they shifted all of their tailors and everything to make masks. And it turned into like a $4 or $5 million company. And there was some negative press for that. So I'm not going to name the company or anything, but it's all about perspective where
Right.
Goal Zero, what they did is they shifted and they donated not only money, but time, resources, and people to make a necessity, to make an item
Something
that we
needed. Yeah.
So that's big. When you're able to shift, that shows a lot about your organization, because you can do one of two things. You can either shift, react and shift, or you can close the doors and you can boot everyone out the door.
Right.
And they didn't do that. They stepped up from the looks of it, and they helped the community during COVID-19. So just from the impact report, and this is on their website. If you go to the bottom of their webpage, there's the impact report. A lot of good information there. But even if you follow them on social media, they do a lot as far as giving back, humanitarian work. They donate their time. It's just a company that I want to promote. So we're going to continue to learn. We're going to figure out what Goal Zero is all about. We're going to test their products. We're going to see how the solar panels work. We're going to take them to construction sites. And we'll definitely make sure that we update with the progress. But definitely, it's a good company.
Yeah, I think I'm really pleased with what I've been able to experience. Again, I love promoting small businesses. By no means is Goal Zero a small business, but they're a local business. And I think that's another really touching thing for us is supporting local. And Goal Zero, we've drive past it. I know I do every morning when I go to work, every day when I come home for lunch, when I come home at the end of the day. So I drive past the building nonstop, and it's great to finally own one of their products, use it, and help support, local Utah businesses.
And speaking of local Utah businesses, we want to promote a new small business. It is Osborne Electric.
Yes.
These guys came out to our house and they changed out all of our lights. We have pendulums, we have a ceiling fan, chandelier, everything. They came out and they changed the lighting really quickly. They did a fantastic job. It is two brothers that they left the corporate world, decided to chase their dream, and they started Osborne Electric. And we want to support them as best we can. So if there's any electrical general contracting that our followers are need, whether that is hot tub installation, lighting, it could even be complete construction refinishing.
Yep, they do everything start to finish. So they have general contractors licenses. They're brothers. I believe they have somewhere around 15 years combined experience in the electrical field, but I know one of them, Trevor, did just get his general contractor's license. So they're doing everything from new builds all the way to, if you're remodeling, they do some stuff for small local clothing companies here in Utah. It's called Piper and Scoot. It's really popular, but they do all of their stuff. And, the service we got from them is very similar. It's very hands-on. They were very professional. They were very tidy. That's from a contractor's perspective. And pretty much any trade you ask, the electricians are the messiest ones on the job site. So they're known for coming in, doing their work, and walking out the door, and there is wire and plastic and crap everywhere. It's nice to see someone have enough pride that they clean up and take their garbage with them, and they take pride in what they're doing. And that's really important, and it's really cool to see a brand new small business doing things that are so rare.
And they put up with the bulldog.
Yep, so they dealt with the bulldog.
So, and what's really cool, the average age, and I'm just making this up here, I hope I'm right, but the average age of electrician is probably 44 years old.
It's somewhere, I would say it's probably somewhere between like 45 and 55.
Okay. Around there. Yeah. So let's say 45 and being generous. Osborne Electric, Osborne, they're both
so
20s,
I think,
right?
Yeah. So I think I would bet Wes is probably in his early 30s, and Trevor's in his late 20s. So they're both young.
So we're driving down the averages. And that's our goal is we want to make sure we promote not only equity in trade, but trades as a successful career in general. So we love seeing the younger generation take a risk, try something new, and jump into trades. And hopefully we see more of that. So we're going to continue to promote as much as we can, youth in trades, women in trades, or just businesses in general. So Goal Zero has nothing to do with the trade industry for the most part, but
they might.
Now they might.
Yeah.
So
no, I think it's great. And I think we both stand on the same page that when you see a young group of anyone, male, female, whoever, you see these younger people who are taking that leap, taking that step of, and they both have young families. They took the chance to leave and start their own company. You want to promote them. You want to help them. You want to help them get their word out. And you need to experience it before you can give a realistic, I guess, recommendation. You don't want to be recommending someone that you haven't been able to do some work with. So having them switch out all of our lights was a great test for us. But I think more than that, it gives us the confidence and the comfort of being able to recommend them to everyone we know. And hopefully it helps them grow their small business. I think it's great to see, again, more Utahns starting their own companies, more people kind of taking that leap, and younger people coming into the trades.
Yeah, and again, we are not paid sponsors. we do not get paid to promote companies. That's one thing that's different with Grizzly Habits is we have nothing to do with these organizations, so you can trust the feedback that we give you. We want to share the positive interactions that we have with different organizations, and we do not take payment.
Yep.
So that's what's really unique about our product reviews is we definitely don't go and hunt for companies and ask for free products to do a review.
Right.
We purchased the Goal Zero. We paid for the lighting from Osborne Electric. So we encourage you to give them a shout. It is Electric Osborne on Instagram or Osborne Electric on Facebook. So go give them a shout, and then we will also put their contact information in the link below. But that about wraps it up. So thank you for listening to this episode about the Goal Zero. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on all of our platforms. It's been a long day.
Long day. Please leave us comments if you have Goal Zeros, if you use Goal Zero. I'd love more information on how other people are using it, because I think it's has a lot more capability than I can actually process at the moment. I would love to hear what everyone else does with their Goal Zeros. So
absolutely. So like, subscribe, and follow. We have Stephanie at Stephanie Builds It, Grizzly Habits on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook.
The book face.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. Give us a holler. Give us a shout. All right.